Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, what might be the last weapon ranking of the base game. With it being the final major update for Wilds before the expansion, it's actually been fantastic to see the interest in Arch-tempered Arkveld from the runners. You know, some updates, certain weapons just didn't get any runs, or some weapons did, but not the kind of clears you'd expect. But for this one, generally people are pumping out runs for AT Arkveld, a lot of people have been playing the game, that's awesome. So a lot of the list today makes relative sense for the weapons and the context of what is a really fast fight. And we'll mention some of the top runs in regards to heroics, because there are some important comparisons to make. But as usual, the general only rule we try to follow with these runs is no heroics, so we can actually see the power of the weapon and compare them to one another. Now with that said, let's run down the current best runs that I could find for each weapon. Initially then we're going to bounce around a little bit as we begin here with heavy bowgun and a 10 minute and 58 second clear. This is the slowest clear by like a grand slam, like a big distance, so I do think other heavy bowgun runs may even be out right now that are faster than this one. But does it make sense that heavy bowgun is towards like the lower end for this fight? Right now, I would say yes. As I was alluding to earlier, basically this is a really fast fight. And this weapon has things like perfect guarding and of course the offsetting to lean onto. But the combos are pretty brutal. The animation lock that you have during setups, the offset for say heavy bowgun is quite the setup. We see it here as you've got to like properly set it up and hold it, and even there in that setup it just didn't pan out. So here comes another pull out and then we actually get one. What's the payoff? Well, a perfect evade using the evasion mantle. So there's not like a DPS payoff for all that setup. Then you've got to play at the optimal ranges, you've generally slow movement, it's a heavier weapon. This makes sense. But I do think it's entirely possible that we'll see heavy bowguns get some higher ranking runs in the near future. So who's up next then? We have Hammer with an 8 minute and 59 second clear. So this is a bit of a jump forward as we go into what is another sensical run. Hammer obviously wants to hit the head, and a big part of Arkveld, and this version of Arkveld in particular, is dealing with those chain blades, putting out good dragon element into them at the right times when they're exposed, and managing the fight. And I mean this aspect of the fight where we get like a bit of a stagger and KO because of the blunt damage, because of the damage to the head, that is really nice for the weapon. And by no means is a 9 minute run terrible. We're going to see a lot of runs that are around 8 minutes to 9 minutes, so I actually don't think this is bad. Generally, the showings have been really good, there's been a lot of runs, and so I do think this is a great one to check out to learn how to deal with the fight. When to use your offsets, when to go toe to toe, which target to focus, I think that's always going to be useful. But here's one that's a bit of an upset, especially for Josh, let me tell you. We have Great Sword with an 8 minute and 42 second clear time. And obviously, we got that awesome shatterseal weapon in action. I don't know many great sword mains that aren't using that right now. The fight is good in certain aspects. You are able to offset this thing consistently. And we're seeing a bit of the bail effect there too. There are some fun effective sets that are going to be relevant for this. But yeah, you've seen a lot of offset spam. So that should create lots of openings for the follow-ups. But what it doesn't do as a fight is actually allow, another offset by the way, is actually allow proper charge time. You're not seeing a lot of true charge slashes in this fight compared to most fights. In a way, it reminds me of Omega and the issues Greatsword had with that fight, but you couldn't even offset reliably in that fight, or at least you can, certainly, obviously, like this first minute, just all offsets. So there are aspects that are nice of Greatsword. And for your average player, I think this is going to be great, as long as you're engaging heavily with the shoulder barge and obviously the offset spam. And it's almost like playing longsword or something, where it's basically just a counter spam, but offsets instead. Okay, bit of a crazy upset surprise here. We have Lance with an 8 minute and 40 second clear time. I believe the best run that I had until this one suddenly appeared was like a 9 minute and 40 something. But here we are with Lance with an 840 clear. How is that possible? Well, it's able to absolutely pump its damage and dragon damage at that with the fast poke and thrust and triple poke combo. Then in regards to the high pace of the fight, you know, perfect timing on counters, perfect timing on offsets is really demanding for certain weapons. Lance, guard, perfect guard, and obviously all of the counter thrusts and playstyle that's engaged with that. Then the actual uptime and decent DPS of just spamming the thrusts and how quick they're coming out now. These have all been buffed over and over, and now we're seeing some actual results of that. So I'm happy for Lance to see that it's not like absolutely hilariously behind in terms of output. And as far as a fight goes, it's actually a great weapon because you're able to really heavily rely on the shield, especially after they made big attacks affect larger shields in this way less. You're less held down by animation lock. So it's not a bad weapon for this fight, all things considered. Moving on though, we have gunlance with a bit of a jump forward. We have an 8-minute and 20-second clear time. So we still haven't broken the 8-minute barrier here, guys, but it will happen soon. And interestingly, with the gunlance, you do have some longer animations. Rocksteady Mental being in use makes complete sense to me to actually get those off. You got the bigger shield, just like we were looking at with Lance. We're able to go toe-to-toe, and they buffed that in Title Update 4, where you got the bigger hits and less of a kind of reaction to those, so you can get into the DPS and actually maintain your output. Another benefit of this weapon though is obviously the shells and the way you could ignore hit zones largely, but you don't really want to in this fight. You want to be hitting those chains as much as possible. You want to be pumping the dragon into them as they're exposed. It's a key part of the fight. So it's interesting to see the combos that are coming out here and how long they actually are. Obviously heavily relying on Rocksteady Mantle as that gets consumed, so it's just sort of trading health and tanking damage with damage reduction to make that happen. I think this is a weapon that I would generally really struggle with for this fight though, because of the longer animations, because of the longer combos that are usually necessary. So if you are struggling with gunlance, here's a run to definitely check out and see how to play it. A lot of perfect guarding, a lot of smaller combos, there's a clash. It's obviously possible because an 8-minute 20 run is very respectable. Up next, we have our first reference to heroics here. This is an insect glaive run that is 8 minutes and 13 seconds. And sorry about the low quality, it's just what it is. Basically, in short, we have a respectable run here. But the difference with a heroics run is major. The top run with heroics at the time that I make this video is 5 minutes and 43 seconds. So it's almost a 3-minute gap. If you think about heroics being like a 30% damage increase, but then you have to kind of trade some skills, right? Or you got piping hot meal where you don't really have to do that and you get the benefits and they're even better. You don't have to trade. It should be about that kind of difference between the times, about a 30%. So it makes sense that this, without heroics, is around an 8-minute clear. As far as a target goes, it's decent enough for the descending slash like dump, the essence dump attack, to rise up through the rings. Because of the sort of shoulder joints, you're able to do that. And the head's off the ground a little bit, so you're able to go up and through it. But the problem really is the longer animations involved in that. So here's like an opportunity, right? A bit of a longer recovery. We see a nice combo come out and there's the descending and there's the essence dump and then smoothly using a wound to actually recover. Maybe an awkward part about this fight actually is the fast recovery time on the wounds. Sort of forcing the insect glaive user to empty the essence aggressively to then recover it with the focus strikes because those wounds aren't sticking around. Alright, next up then we have one of the weapons that I like to main. It's Switch Axe with a 7-minute and 58-second clear. So our first sub 8 minute here. So where does Switch Axe stand right now compared to the other weapons? Not too terribly, towards the middle or lower middle of the pack, right? That is, I think, a decent place for it. Obviously, as a weapon, it's had big issues with being a full release spammer, and thankfully they made that change, pretty big changes, in Title Update 4, where you're getting those rising slashes, the triple triangle combo being a lot more reliable, and importantly, you got the sword counter, which you can now interrupt with an evade, so generally you'll see people do that. Imagine doing full release spam as your primary output in this fight. There's no time for it. It just wouldn't be here. So these faster combos, we're getting a lot of these like vial pops as part of the damage, smashing that element specifically into the chain blades. That's great. You have the reliable sword counter to just spam out. And here we see the first offset where you can pull that out pretty great in this fight. Great sword obviously doing mostly offsets for all of its attacks. So it is actually a viable option here. And that was made a bit of a better option in a previous title update. There's the first full release in a knockdown, makes complete sense, recharge. But yeah, I find this quite a toe-to-toe weapon with AT Arkveld, one of the few of its kind, where you can just kind of DPS ignore what Arkveld's doing and sword counter most attacks because of the new ways that things work. I'm very happy with this, and this feels right in regards to like a top time. But up next, we have Sword and Shield with a 7-minute and 51-second clear. Another one that kind of feels sensical to me. It's going to be a weapon that's going to be absolutely pumping damage the whole time, and with its free-flowing movement, you are able to consistently stick to those wing arms and not really miss a beat throughout the whole hunt. And with the ability to sort of pull out that perfect guard whenever you need to, mid-attack, mid-combo, you're never really animation locked. It's another weapon that's able to go super toe-to-toe and just kind of bull through a lot of the mechanics, ignoring them, which is really nice. And I suppose if you want to, with the head when that's the target you gotta hit, well then you can always just do a quick bonk with the shield, maybe build up like a KO and get a free DPS window there, unlike plenty of weapons without that blunt benefit. So there's certainly some finesse here, reasoning behind the choices and timings of certain combos, worth checking out as usual if you're learning this fight with SNS. Okay, time for a bit of controversy here. It's light bowgun with a 7 minute and 31 second clear. What the hell has happened here? The reason that I say that is because that doesn't make sense for this weapon, and not in this fight. It should be a top contender. It should be like first or up there, and it is. With a heroics run, the top run as I make this video is sub 3 minutes. 2 minutes and 58 second clear is what's possible with this weapon, with like a perfect run with obviously heroics being used. Here though we have a 7 minute and 31, so why are we looking at it? Well, it's just like the best run I could find where they're not using heroics, because it's so good for this weapon and this fight in the context. To use piping hot meal, not make sacrifices, get major benefits out of your element, and that massive 30% damage increase for raw. It just goes so far. So all the runners, like the mass majority of them, are doing heroics only runs. So obviously that's cool to see and still worth thinking about, but your average player isn't going to be doing that. They don't want to play at 1 health where Arkveld's going to kill them at the drop of the hat. So this is the best run I've been able to find where heroics isn't involved and they're playing it in a clever way where we see a lot of use of traps and so on. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with this weapon and no heroics run. But this is worth checking out for all of the tools they use in regards to traps, different ammo types, restocking mid-hunt, and going again. So do check out the run. But this now brings us to Hunting Horn, which makes complete sense that say higher up, say top 5 or whatever, but it is interesting to see it not say towards like 2 or 3 or something, because it's been absolutely dominating since the major updates. I think it was like Title Update 3 where it started to really skyrocket in relevance. Anyway, here we see a very respectable 7 minutes and 17 second clear. The top run right now though, of course, is using heroics. Top run at this time is a 5 minute and 46 second, so that roughly feels right in terms of difference of time. So yeah, this may be towards the higher end of what's possible for hunting on here without heroics, maybe like a 7 minute time at best, but whatever. 7:17, still very good. One interesting thing there we saw though at the start is the way they had to travel to the arena before then doing echo bubbles and setting up like the buffs right outside the fight. I guess it's just efficiency, right? But always awkward to see them waste their time that way. Makes you wonder what kind of time save they'd have if they didn't have to do that stuff. And obviously the hilt stab's great. The setting up of the echo bubbles and holding one position, bit of an awkward aspect of the fight, I suppose, because Arkveld jumps around and flies around and does these long combos. I guess you just got to make sure that he doesn't remove himself from your echo bubbles like that, where thankfully he slid back towards the other end of them. Bit of luck involved here, I would say. So if you're looking to maximize your echo bubbles and learn how to sort of like hold the fight down in one place, good run to check out. Though I do think, you know, some high potential for Hunting Horn is there on the table without heroics. Alright, I'm happy to see next up Longsword with a great run, a 7 minute and 6 second clear with no heroics. The top run as I make this video is actually with the heroics, as you might expect, but only a 6:51, so there's quite some discrepancy there. We should expect to see a heroics run maybe around a 5 minute clear in the future with like perfect gameplay or whatever, but for now, a 7 minute and 6 second clear with no heroics is actually really decent. And we see some interesting things here with the barrel bomb familiar opening to get that perfect counter, get the level up. We see, say, ignoring a roar there and actually using a rare case of the Helmbreaker. But obviously, a lot of this fight, certainly my experience using Longsword, is basically special sheath and then the counter, special sheath and then the counter, special sheath and then the counter, and that's largely it. You want to be in red gauge and you want to be doing the Spirit Blade 1 Crimson combo, obviously, at the wing arms, but the time just is brutal. And if you're going to do, say, a special sheath counter, and successfully land it, that allows you to immediately go back into the sheath. Otherwise, you need to do an attack between that. So you're kind of stuck fishing in the loop with this weapon. You go into the sheath, you land the counter, you go into the sheath, see what's happening, and then make a quick decision or go for the counter. Because these combos are quick, they're never ending. So I think, say, the perfect runs are going to be min-maxing those periods where you can do the optimal DPS, minimizing how much they're forced to special sheath counter every single time. But you see, it's just a lot. But I will say, it is really fun. Up next then, we have a sub 7 minute clear from the wonderful charge blade, and this makes sense to me. This is a 6 minute and 56 second clear. Part of it, right, is the fact that you can pull out those perfect guards, transitioning from the axe to your shield at the drop of the hat. It's so fast now thanks to Tile Update 4. Even without thinking about rapid morph, they improved it so much. Then you have the lockdown of the hits. You don't need that long to do an ED1, ED2, which can interrupt with roll, right? You don't need that long to pull out an AED. And then if you can get the follow-up, awesome. But it's still like hitting like a truck. Like each animation, each attack you get out, there's the big hit, there's the chainsaw hits, there's the vial pops. Feels amazing. Then you have like the long lockdowns during these focus strike animations. Really the hard part about the fight for you is managing your vials and making sure they're good to go. I was using an impact vial weapon with a bit of dragon on it, so I was able to hit the head and get KOs like we're seeing here. Then that opens up better DPS windows that, say, a hammer has to fight for to get a KO like that, without other benefits that we see, say, Charge Blade having. Anyway, this run is absolute domination, obviously, and definitely feels towards like the peak of the weapon. I'm interested to see what's possible with heroics, but a sub 7 minute run without any is a fantastic showing and clearly shows that mechanically the weapon is in a great place, and then output wise also in a great place. But as we get towards some of the top runs, we have quite an interesting one here with Dual Blades. A 6 minute and 27 second clear without heroics is brilliant, and obviously your ability to put out that constant damage on the wing arms of the dragon is showing here. Interesting detail here is the evasion mantle, because the attacks are so common and you're perfect evading to maintain demon boost mode the whole time. Well, I guess it makes sense to take the benefits of that evasion mantle over corrupted. Anyway, because you don't have much animation lock unless you go for, say, Blade Dance 3 or you start with Blade Dance 1 or something, you're actually able to perfectly just pump damage. You're just playing a game of stamina management, demon gauge management, and then whenever you can get away with that longer attack animation like the Blade Dance 3 there, you go for it. There are actually times where Arkveld's active and you absolutely can do it. That feels great. It doesn't matter what Arkveld does. With the insane gap closing you have, you got that perfect evade into the spiral spin follow-up, back on target. This allows you to avoid a lot of the attacks or get straight back to the head and be in a nice position for one of the longer animations to punish it. It just feels like one of the best options as a weapon for this fight if you can play it. Strongly recommend it, and if you're looking to learn, my god, check out this run. But there must be a winner, and in this case, it's Bow. Bow has been dominant in the runs, and not just here with a normal run of a 6 minute and 16 second clear, so not quite sub 6, but still obviously very impressive. But when we look at heroics, still very dominant there, where they have a sub 5 minute and a 4 minute and 58 second clear by comparison. This difference is quite small, really, about a minute between them, when you're thinking about a 30-35% damage increase. And again, as I was saying earlier in regards to like abusing piping hot meal, you get an incredible buff, even better than heroics, without trading anything. So element weapons, they get this huge boost in that regard because they get the benefits of all the element and super focusing on that, but then the raw benefits of these heroic like effects. This is why we see things like bow and the bow guns just kind of skyrocket under these contexts. Interesting detail about the runner we're watching here, they currently have the top no heroics run, right? But they also have the top heroics run, which is cool. And I translated their description, they talked about the run and said this: the trick to getting a good time is to incorporate a down attack immediately after the evasion buff. So they're trying to get like a stagger or recovery frames to punish with DPS window. After landing a perfect evade, that's when they go for a more committed combo to get the DPS while that's going. They go on to say that you want to ensure the wounds on the wings penetrate cleanly, so trying to maximize the value of each wound by being in the correct position. You know, the long chain or whatever, if you're standing on the side, the shots are going to get a lot more value. And finally, they say you want to make sure you don't waste the conversion stagger and the chain release stagger. So there's these like consistent stagger times when you're dealing the damage and stopping these modes. Like here we have this knockdown. They want to maximize the DPS, leaping forward, closing the distance for effective range, and smacking the head, interestingly, before then going back to the chain arms once it's active again and the Wilk is like powering it up. So there's plenty of little things you can learn from this run. So as always, check out this runner and the rest of the runners in this video. But yeah, there you have it. I think this list makes sense. Slower weapons like heavy bowgun or charging weapons like greatsword logically should have a harder time. But it is crazy to me with the heroic stuff, we're seeing sub 5, sub 4 and now sub 3 runs. on AT Arkveld, I just wouldn't have expected it. I think this is a fantastic version of the fight though. I love the pace and the damage threat. Lots of new attacks and combos. I think this is the best AT release. We'll see how things develop with the runners though. New runs happen every day, things may have changed already, so go check out these runners. Until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.